Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Weissheit, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you are joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. And again, you know that we are very dedicated to making sure we bring to you updates from the people who are helping make those decisions and our elected officials who work tirelessly to be able to do that. One of those, Beryl Amedee. Beryl, thanks for joining us.
It's always a pleasure to come.
We appreciate it. Of course, Beryl, State Representative for District 51 in Gray, and I think about it all the time. It seems that I pass through your district 3 or 4 times a week, as you do. And I just always think about the fact that I'm really glad that the people have someone that they can contact and reach out to who is accessible and is somebody who's going to stand up for them.
Oh, yep. Thank you. I appreciate the compliment.
Well, and as we're doing that, I'm still looking around and seeing all the things that we need to do and all the impacts of what's happened with Ida. And so let's just talk a little bit about insurance and recovery and kind of where we are with that.
Sure. Well, we are more than a year out since the hurricane, and at my office, I think the calls and the emails are averaging 1 or 2 a week now, which is a big improvement.
Significantly down.
Of people who are still trying to work their way through the whole process of getting their homes and their businesses back to normal, or at least in a state of repair.
Yeah, some version of that.
Yes. And sometimes people have complicated issues. I'm still having to refer them to attorneys. Other times I can refer them to our state insurance commissioner. Mm-hmm. And I had to make a call like that myself this week.
Well, what started that? Tell us what prompted that.
Sure. On Saturday, I got our renewal notice for our wind and hail insurance in the mail. And I have to tell you, it doubled in a year. Just the premium we paid last year is half of the premium that we're going to be paying in another month. So the clock is ticking. I have less than 30 days now to see if I can possibly find an insurance company that will write a new wind and hail policy for me, because we have been with Citizens ever since a few months after the hurricane, when the company we had folded up or left the state.
Right.
And I know that there are many people in the same boat. So I called the insurance commissioner's office and I spoke to our new deputy insurance commissioner named Chuck Meyer, who I'm pleased to hear transferred here from Florida.
From Florida.
So he has lots of hurricane experience, and plenty of it is firsthand, so he knows for sure what it's like. And after a lengthy discussion where he told me many of the steps that the insurance commissioner is taking to try to bring more insurance companies here to write new policies and to help supplement the ones that are already here who are trying to stay here, I offered for the new deputy commissioner to come on down to our area, and I'd be happy to be an ambassador here and take him on a little tour and let him see how recovery is going, and possibly speak firsthand to some of the people who have had good experiences and those who are still weeding through trouble, and that way he can see firsthand what we're going through.
You know, it's really interesting. If there's anything that our Terrebonne 200 taught me, is that it's important for us to take a look back so we can understand where we are, in as much as looking forward to the future. And I wonder if and when that happens, please let us know. We want to be involved with that. If we were to do that and that representative Chuck comes down, to be able to kind of show him the before and afters of Ida. Because not only do I want to let him see some of these homes and some of these buildings and some of these situations and issues that haven't been resolved, I want him to see the ones that have been torn down.
Yes.
Because that's the one thing that I think people miss out on. And I've lived here my entire life, 54 plus years. And as I drive through, the one thing that really kind of gets to me is, I remember that really big oak tree. I remember that building that's been here my whole life. And that leaves a lasting impact, I think, on people to realize how traumatic and dramatic this event was. But I also appreciate the big picture of, and Jim Donald was very clear. We had a full 6 segments talking about what are you going to do to help the people in South Louisiana since this. And he said, we're going to try to bring in companies. And I think that this is probably one of those ways to do that. And you mentioned being with Citizens after the storm, since yours was one of the companies that left. I just wonder your thoughts on the value of trying to get other companies, because people like you really need an option to see what's available to you.
Well, you're correct. We need options. If we can get new companies in here, and I keep saying new, I don't want to belittle the companies we currently have.
No, right, just additional companies.
Right, if we can get more options, because so far, I haven't found a company that's willing to write a policy for me for this. So I may be stuck with Citizens for some time to come. Then competition is helpful because
Healthy.
we already know that whatever premiums are charged, they're going to be less than Citizens because that's the way it's set up. It's
right.
the joint, the state reinsurance program, and they have to charge higher than the private market. But there are other possibilities we may have to discuss. And next week, I'm going to meet with Governor DeSantis in Florida, along with a small delegation of other state representatives. And one of the things we'll talk about is insurance after hurricanes. Florida is one of the states that's done something a little different. I don't know if it's a good plan that Louisiana would like to follow or might need to follow, but I want to be aware of it and see if it's an option.
I love the idea that knowledge is power, and sometimes we have to go and find other areas to look at that. I often echo how other areas who don't have a Merganza to the Gulf protection levee protection system have learned from what we do and have learned a way to be able to do that. And I know you've been intimately involved in that. And it's one of those things that I love the fact that you're willing to go check out and see what they're doing with DeSantis in Florida to figure out what we may be able to do.
It's how we learn. And the things that we go through here give us experience, and it's helpful to share that experience with others that come and want to learn what worked for us. It might work for them, so we do the same.
Find myself doing this very thing, and I like to call complaining good communication. Because sometimes if we don't let people know what we're thinking or feeling, how will they know what we need? You've been getting quite a bit of those in your office. I'm sure you get them all the time. Tell us a few things that some of your constituents are concerned about.
Sure. Now, not every phone call is negative. We do get compliments too, but the compliments are usually not something that I have to take action on. The complaints are.
Right.
So one of the main complaints coming in now that we're past a lot of the Ida recovery issues are about roads, tall grass, bridges, drainage. It seems that during the whole growing season of grass, which is like 9 months out of the year here, we get complaints about the tall grass. Well, now that the grass has gone dormant and in some cases died and in other cases it's been cut, people are seeing trash. We maybe couldn't see it before.
Gotcha.
It was there. So, so some of the things we've been working on are getting the roadsides cleaned up, but even better than that, keeping them from getting full of debris and garbage to begin with. So I have a few projects in the works on that. But a lot of the complaints that we're getting right now are true safety hazards. It has to do with the surface of the road being so bad that especially for vehicles like motorcycles, it could be the cause of an actual accident.
And a fatal accident at
yes,
that.
Unfortunately.
We're talking about bikes and mopeds and motorcycles.
Right. So there are a few projects that are about to be taken care of, and some are a little farther off in the future. But most of all, I wanted to give you a little overview. As we go back in session, one of the many things we will focus on is the DOTD budget. And it seems that money is a hindrance, but not only that, old equipment that can't be repaired easily or quickly, and personnel problems, staffing problems are always something that DOTD has to deal with, just like other businesses.
Right. Those delays are based on that.
Right. So in this fiscal year, they have over $700 million in the DOTD budget, but that has, that's total. That has to cover everything. And keep in mind, we still have that $14.9 billion of backlog highway and bridge projects. These are not necessarily new construction. This is, I have the breakdown, 46% of it is road conditions, like repair and maintenance, like resurfacing, and 46% of it is congestion, which are ideas to solve traffic flow issues. And then there's the rest, which is what? 3%?
Yeah, very little.
Not much.
Yeah, 8%.
Okay, thank you.
46 and 46.
Okay. Well,
if my math is right.
I don't know, 46 and 46. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. 92 and 8.
The point is that the majority of it, half is about repairs, and the other half is about figuring out what to do with the traffic. So we're limited as to what we can get done in a given year. And people keep saying, well, what about the gas tax? Well, the gas tax is 38.4 cents per gallon, and that's already included in this $700 million.
So that comes in from the state.
Right, and federal. So right now, within my House district, I do have some good news about a few projects.
Okay.
And one of them that I'm getting complaints about here lately, especially with all that rain, is the surface of Grand Collier Road down to Bobtown especially. So Highway 57, the good news is that there is a project to resurface, to overlay it on the books.
Oh,
and
nice.
it goes out for bid in October. And I know that sounds like it's a
But
long
that's
time
fast,
coming.
though, but, you know, when it
But
comes to getting
yes.
it done.
When a
Right?
project has a date where they
Right.
expect it to go out for bid, this is
Right.
really good news.
Right.
So it's like a light at the end of the tunnel.
Sure.
Another one is the road, it's actually two roads that connect. Highway 662 and Highway 398. This is the road from Bayou Lewis to Labadyville.
Labadyville, right.
Well, this surface has a lot of potholes, and they keep coming out and patching, but you know, especially with rain, the patch washes out, or
Sure.
maybe new holes are formed, so it's a constant problem. Well, the officials of DOTD, with Assumption, they ride that section of road every 2 weeks, and they take note of the latest potholes, and they schedule them to be patched. And people say, well, quit scheduling patchwork, we need it resurfaced. They know, I know. The problem is, on that particular section of road, we don't have a bid date. We don't have a schedule yet, so patching is the best we can do for now.
Right.
And one of the reasons is that section of road is not eligible for federal funding. We can't get federal help, so it rests completely on the state to deal with that road. And it doesn't rise high enough in the priority level to receive federal funding because it's not like a designated hurricane evacuation route, for example.
Which is what it's got to be recognized by the national.
Yeah, so that's part of the problem for that road. Now, it costs about $1 million per mile to resurface a road.
Wow.
And that section of roadway is about 15 miles. So $15 million is a lot.
That's a lot of money.
But it's on the list. They're
Right.
aware.
And as soon as we get dates and approvals, we'll share that information.
I'll be happy to announce that.
That'll be a great day to announce.
And one more that I have a tentative date for.
Okay.
Well, actually, no. But anyway, it's on the list. Between Terrebonne and Lafourche,
Okay.
Upper Bayou Blue.
Oh, right.
Funding has been selected to resurface that section of road. I don't have an actual start date yet, but that funding pot is a 3-year program, so we know it's going to come soon.
Yeah.
So, good
Well,
news.
wow. I mean, and look, that's a lot of things to be looking at and looking forward to. And so, again, we'll give those updates, but people need to realize it's a process.
It is.
And it takes much longer than we'd like, but to get the roads down, we got to go through the tape to do it.
Yeah, and the
do
higher
it.
the level of government, the slower it moves.
That's exactly right. But the only way to get those things approved is to go and fight for them through legislative session, and that's coming up in March, right?
April.
In April,
Yeah.
right. And this is a fiscal year. So tell us the difference between a fiscal year versus a different legislative year.
Sure. In odd-numbered years, we have what's called a fiscal-only session. It's a shorter session. That's why it starts in April and not March this year. And with the focus on fiscal issues, each legislator is limited to being able to bring no more than 5 bills that are not fiscal related, and those have to be filed early before the session even begins.
Okay. What kinds of things are you looking at? And I don't want you to get into great detail because I know we don't have a whole lot of time for that, but maybe just a general overview of some of the things that you're fighting for in bills.
Oh, sure. I have a lengthy list of ideas, but I'm going to have to whittle those down to the 5 that need to move this year,
Right.
Because of the limit. So there are many issues that we're discussing, legislators amongst ourselves, to see who is best to carry which topic.
Okay.
And so,
That's really smart, by the way. I love the idea that you would get together with your colleagues, and that way you kind of got the best 5 from each person and no duplication. But go ahead.
Yeah, it helps because every legislator comes from a different background, and certain topics may be best carried by someone who has expertise in a certain area.
Right.
So one of the bills that I am working on that I can tell you about easily is a bill that would make parental rights fundamental in Louisiana. I believe
Okay.
it would solve a lot of problems. It would answer a lot of questions that we've covered in the past few years, especially with things like pandemic shutdown and,
Right.
and certain mandates. It would answer the question of who has final authority, and it would mean that parents definitely have final authority, with the exception of a parent who has had their parental rights taken away
Right.
through some sort of violence or crime,
Right.
perhaps.
Right. Or emancipation as well?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But just in general, the
Right,
everyday mom
right,
and dad,
right.
they would have say-so over the upbringing, the direction that they send their children, their education, their health care, all those decisions.
What all of those things up till age in Louisiana 17? Is that correct?
Certain things will be 17, certain things will be 18.
Okay, and that's some of the particulars that we'll end up getting into, I think, at a later date.
Maybe
probably.
so, and those are already
Right.
in law.
Okay, right.
But besides that, there are other bills.
Okay.
I'm considering a few budget bills.
Okay.
Things that will help to improve the way we do the budget. Things that will help
Oh.
to keep the budget from becoming overgrown, from growing beyond what our economy can sustain, for example. And I'm not the only one. I have colleagues working on these things too.
Right.
And then
So
there
limitations to budget.
are correct.
Okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
Or maybe a change in the process of how we do it.
budgeting.
Maybe a change in the process of how does a capital outlay project end up in the capital outlay bill to begin with. We saw some success in the past year or two with things like the water sector program, which allowed local governments to be able to more easily qualify for funding for crucial infrastructure concerning potable water, for example.
Okay.
And because of that success, we may want to expand that to certain other local government, municipal type projects. It levels the playing field. It lets them know up front, here's the criteria you have to meet, whether you have match money or what have you. So that's something that we're exploring.
I like that. Better
I think
process.
it makes common sense.
Right.
But there are many other issues that are out there that we're talking about, looking into, things that other states some of them are currently in session. Our session is always later than the rest because
we like to learn from what they're doing, right?
Well, not only that, but if we called a session during Mardi Gras, we might not get a quorum.
Yeah,
So
yeah, we would have
to
trouble
avoid
getting
that.
enough people, right?
So ours starts later.
Okay.
So things like there will be attempts concerning red flag laws,
Okay.
Second Amendment rights. There will be attempts to change our right to life related laws, protection of the unborn. There will probably be attempts to add exceptions to our state laws for things like rape and incest. I mean, we're expecting this. It would
Right.
not be a surprise if people filed these kinds of bills.
Right.
And we currently are looking into we're reviewing the state early childhood curriculum standards. The House Education Committee has a meeting on the 19th, and there are two items on the agenda. One is the Education Excellence Funding Formula and Proposal, and the other has to do with the early childhood standards. They're being reviewed right now. Bessie has actually approved them, but there's a lot of pushback right now coming from parents and the public because many people see the proposed standards as being a step in the wrong direction. And,
They're lessening those standards instead
correct.
of raising them.
And I've personally gone to the Bessie meeting and spoken and turned in letters to Bessie explaining that I feel also that these are not an improvement. And so hopefully we'll get to discuss what changes are needed to the proposed standards so that we continue to have good early childhood standards. And the process we followed for the social studies standards for K through 12 worked so well last year. We're trying to do something similar here.
Emulate that.
Give more time for public review and input, and then have Bessie consider the input they've gotten.
And again, there's a whole lot of credibility that goes to not only just accepting the first thing that you get, but really taking a strategic look at, is this the best thing? And before we move it into a bill to a law, is this going to be the best thing?
That's right, because the words on paper mean something.
Right.
And it's not necessarily what you see written on the paper, it's how those words are going to play out in real life when it comes right down to the classroom or the daycare center setting.
And what they do.
That makes a difference.
Gotcha. Beryl, thank you so much for your time, your interest, your education to us. We appreciate it very much.
Yes, sir.
And good luck. All right, guys, that will do it for this particular segment. Don't go anywhere. A lot more Bayou time when we continue.